Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. And today, as you can probably tell by the title, I'm actually going to be talking about some books that I've been reading in the last few months. And I know books are something that I don't think I've ever spoken about the books that I read and what kind of books I'm interested in and the genres that I enjoy. I've not touched on this topic I think ever on my channel, so for you it might be completely out of left field, but the thing is I've always enjoyed reading. Now the issue is around the second year, third year mark in college, around that time I think books like the I don't give how to not give a bleep, so like a lot of these pop culture type self-help books were very popular and a lot of them still are today. So because that's what I was seeing everywhere on Instagram, on social media, and therefore I guess around me also, because a lot of the people that I was kind of going to college with or surrounding myself with were reading those books. Now the issue is I didn't realize that I actually do not enjoy that genre of books at all. When I started reading them, I felt like I'm kind of falling off of my reading habit. Like I've enjoyed reading since I think 7th, 8th is when I really kind of started getting into books, because all of these series that I've mentioned, the Goosebumps, Princess Diaries, that kind of stuff, they were all available in our school library, so I would just get those issued anytime I wanted to read. So I could develop a habit of reading as a result of being in that environment. Now because I was in this environment now where everyone around me and on social media also, I kept seeing that book cover keep popping up everywhere, everyone was reading it, everyone and their mother was reading it. It kind of became that thing where you see something and then you feel like you have to do it. It took me a really long time to even realize the fact that I was never finishing those books. I would buy one, I would start it, and the first few maybe I finished, but eventually as I kept buying more and more of those self-help category books, I realized that I actually did not enjoy reading them. And again, this is not something that is going to be true for everyone. Of course, everyone's tastes can be different. I just enjoy an escapism kind of feel to a book. I'm not sure if that's a genre, but some books I just can't place exactly where they would fall into, like if I were to put them in a category. So I'll just explain as I go. Before I begin, I just want to finish the story that I was telling you. So as a result, I actually stopped reading books altogether because I kind of felt like I don't enjoy books anymore. It hit me one day, especially I think this was around 2022. This was like when we had kind of started getting out of that intense COVID phase. I started realizing I've spent so much time at home. I kind of felt very guilty because I felt like I could have finished so many books. Last year is when I decided that I want to get back into reading, but I made it a point to not buy any self-help books. I only picked up books that I felt drawn to. All the self-help books that I've mentioned before, I did not feel drawn to them. Like I did not feel like a calling from the inside. I was just buying them because everyone else was reading them and that's all I saw on social media. So I made it a point to only buy books that I felt like I was interested or intrigued in them or by them. So now getting into the books finally. So I, as a person outside makeup and beauty and hair care and skincare and all of that, I really enjoy history, not a specific era. I enjoy all kinds of history, and especially in the modern era, I am actually, maybe I should put it in a better way, but I can't find better words to put it into, but this is what I'll say. I am unhealthily obsessed with World War II. I don't know what is it about it. There's been wars before and there's wars going on currently, but I am just so fascinated by all the events that went down in World War II. So that's one kind of era almost of modern history that I really like researching about. So I went to CP one day with a friend and I wanted to pick up books from this uncle who actually sits at like a corner. He has like a corner shop. It's just books upon books upon books. So if you want to find a book, you literally have to stand near the piles and just kind of read all the titles like this. Read all the titles, and if one intrigues, you'll have to ask him and he'll pull it out for you so you can read the blurb and everything. So I was there once and I saw this book. This is called Black Roses by Jane Thin I think. If I'm wrong, I'm very sorry. But the book is called Black Roses. This is what it looks like. So it was kept like this in the pile, and I don't know, something about the cover like really called out to me. So I asked him to pull it out. He pulled it out, and then I read the blurb. I was like, of course, I'm gonna buy this. So I'll read the blurb out to you. It says 1933 and warning bells ring across Europe as Dash comes to power. I'm not gonna name this guy because I'm not sure how YouTube likes people taking his name. Clara Vine, a young talented British actress, finds herself in Berlin and unwittingly in the midst of an uneasy circle of almost said it. Among them is Magda Goebbels. So if you guys don't know, this guy, his propaganda minister, so like his cabinet of ministers, he had a ministry called the propaganda ministry. I'm not sure if that's the official name actually, but the minister was called Joseph Goebbels. So he actually handled and basically manipulated all of the media in Germany during that era. So this is his wife, Magda Goebbels. There she meets Leo Quinn, an undercover British intelligence agent, and is soon recruited to spy on her new acquaintances. So she went to Germany from Britain to look for jobs. She's an actress. Someone told her that the movie industry in Germany is gonna flourish very soon. But obviously this is before the bad stuff started happening, so no one actually knew why the media is gonna blow up in Germany, but someone told her that you might find a lot of work there. So she shifts there, but then a lot of bad things start happening. So that's what we're talking about. She meets a guy who's also British, but he's an intelligence agent, which basically means he's a spy. But when Magda Goebbels reveals to Clara a dramatic secret and entrusts her with an extraordinary mission, Clara feels threatened, compromised, and desperately caught between duty and love. So I'm sure that explains everything that there is to explain, but this is basically written before the bad stuff starts happening, but people have started hearing like murmurs of the kind of things that this guy was doing. So things are getting kind of serious and people are getting beaten up on streets by people, you know which people I'm talking about, Jews, and their like shops are being taken over, they are being beaten on roads publicly. So like stuff is happening and no one really knows clearly why, but they know that something bad is coming. In this setting, she finds herself surrounded by these army wives, and then she's kind of given almost like a big task. So it's like a heavy situation. So I actually don't enjoy watching movies, series, or reading books that kind of induce a lot of anxiety in me. Like I can't watch that thriller genre of series or movies anything of that sort. Like Breaking Bad, it's a brilliant show, but after a point the entire series is just about him doing what he does and then almost getting caught in every single episode. So he's doing it and he comes this close to getting caught and then he's saved, and then next episode he's again doing all the things that he does and then he's almost getting caught. Like every episode after episode was kind of, it became like a similar thing. So I would just spend all those 40-45 minutes, I think is the duration of like a normal Breaking Bad episode. I actually don't remember, it's been so long since I watched it last. I hated the fact that I was spending so much time just constantly being at the edge of my seat and feeling so much anxiety that I had to stop watching it. It's a brilliantly made show, and if you're someone who's not really bothered, like actually internally bothered by this kind of stuff, I'm sure you'll enjoy it. If you've not seen it, I mean, you should. But that almost at the edge of your seat kind of anxiety, I felt a lot during reading this book as well. But again, dude, it's written in such a brilliant way. All of these books almost like fly on the wall kind of a perspective. It's not just a narration of events that happen. You kind of feel like you're very involved in the story, and that's like my favorite genre, I would say, of books. But to put it simply, World War II related book, really well written, will make you feel like you're a part of the story, like you're in the scene watching it unfold in front of your eyes. brilliant, and that's exactly the kind of books I enjoy. So that's the first one. So it's got some bits and pieces of history which are actually based on true events and true kind of lived accounts of people. So in the end, actually the author has written the fact that she actually, I think, found some interviews from these women who are married to these army guys, because a lot of the things related to war you hear from men. And I'm not trying to be like a feminist here by saying that. My views over the years have changed a lot about everything. I feel like I really need to clarify the fact that I'm not trying to show women as victims here, because I feel like when I say that statement, like when we hear about wars and who did what, it's usually men that we're talking about. So this guy was from Germany, then all the other people involved, of all the countries that were involved in the war. So like from Russia you have Stalin, from Italy you have Mussolini. So like all these people who were heads of states almost, they're all men. So it was really, really, really interesting to actually see the events that were kind of unfolding during that era from the women's perspective, especially the women who actually had, maybe like indirectly, but a lot of skin in the game. By that I mean they were almost directly involved in the consequences of the actions that their husbands were taking. And of course, ultimately, the entire country faced the consequences of the actions that were taken by their heads of state. But when you're in the family, even though you have a lot of privilege, you have a lot of luxury, you live in these mansions, you have a lot of money, and you don't suffer as much as the normal people, I feel like it can be exhausting if you don't ideologically align with the people that you live with. So if it's your husband who's making those decisions on a day-to-day basis, if you as a person don't agree with a lot of those decisions that are being taken, it can feel very like the world is caving in on you and you're congested and stuff. It was interesting to see which kind of women were actually supporting their husbands in those decisions and which kind of women were not, and how there was like a silent rebellion going on. Like there's just a lot of different kinds of perspectives, because it's not one wife, it's multiple wives and their entire group. And again, it's not just the women, it's the men also. So there's a lot of people involved. There's journalists, there's army people, there's politicians, there's a lot of things going on in this book. Okay, so a historical fiction is what category I'm placing this book into. But this is the only book that I have in this category, because all of them are a little different than this. Now I'll actually just get into my rom-com category. So something about me, I'm actually really into chick flicks. So whether that's a book or a movie, I'm just in it. If it's written nicely, if it makes me feel like I'm involved in the story and the conversational exchanges are half decent, I'll read it. So this is the category where I have the most books actually. So I'll go by size, I guess. So this is the smallest one that I have. It's called Love Story and it's by Eric Segal or Siegel. I don't know how you say it. There's a quote here that says, "Love means never having to say you're sorry." I don't agree with this, but whatever. And also the font is gigantic. So this is a book that you can finish in like a weekend maximum. So a very easy read, a very like 80s Hollywood style rom-com put into a book is what I'll describe it as. But occasionally I enjoy these kind of stories as well, because it's not anxiety inducing. And generally with rom-com books, the reason that I enjoy them so much is because it's so light-hearted. There's a lot of banter usually. They're funny. The guy and the girl usually will kind of insult each other before they start falling in love. So I feel like these are books that you can read without feeling like you're sick after and you need like 2 days to recover. Then I've got this one. Sophie Kinsella is a very, very popular author. So chances are you might have heard her name. She writes the most cliche novels like ever, but I enjoy them. I have like 3 of them here just in this room, and I have another bookcase in the room that I actually sleep in. I'm sure I have like 2 or 3 there as well. But this one I really enjoy. It's called I've Got Your Number, and at the bottom it says "One ring and he's yours." No, he's not. Then I have this one, which again, it's very cliche, but what the hell? It's called Waiting for Tom Hanks by Kerry Winfrey. This is about a woman writer who's again obsessed with rom-coms, and she gets a job in like a movie production, and she meets the lead actor who she eventually falls in love with. So that's an interesting story as well. I'll show this one at the last actually. Now this author I want to talk to you about for a bit. Two of these authors. Oh my god, I have so much to say. When I picked up this book, I picked up another one from this author duo. Actually, it's not one person, it's two people writing together. And they go by Christina Lauren, and they usually tend to be rom-coms. First book that I read was called Wild Night or something, and it was like those just typical rom-com movies that you watch. It was that, but in a book form. They are so descriptive, so you genuinely feel like you're a part of the story. And like I keep mentioning, that's the kind of stuff that I enjoy the most. So these are the two books that I would like to recommend that you check out, especially this one. And I'll tell you why and a reason. The first one is called The Unhoneymooners, and as the name suggests, it's about two people who meet at a wedding, and the bride and groom actually fall sick, so they don't end up going on their own honeymoon. So as to not waste the money that the couple has already spent on the tickets and the booking for their honeymoon, the bride ends up sending her sister, I think, or her friend, and so does the groom. So these people end up going on their honeymoon, and eventually they fall in love. So that's what it is, but it's just funny. It's fun to read. It's a good way to kind of unwind after a long day. The kind of sense of escapism that you crave and you run after when you watch a show or when you're watching a movie, I feel that rush when I read these kind of books. And this is the one that I actually would really recommend to all of you. If you enjoy rom-coms, that is. A lot of these actually, please don't just buy anything that I'm recommending, because you might find it very stupid. And that's a big possibility, because my sister finds Sophie Kinsella just absolutely cringeworthy, so she cannot read it anymore. She's read it when she was younger, but after a certain age she was like, this is so cliche, I can't deal with this anymore, but I still enjoy it. So please take whatever I'm saying with a pinch of salt, and if you're actually interested in the book, I'll be listing all of them down below. Please check the kind of work that these authors do typically, and also read the back of the book and like get a feel of the book is what I'm essentially trying to say to you. Before you end up buying it, you might not like it. I'm just showing this kind of stuff because I really enjoy it. I love watching rom-coms and I love reading rom-coms. So this book by Christina Lauren is called Something Wilder. So this is about a woman called Lily Wilder, hence the name. Also, the Wilder word here is a pun because the setting is of a mountain range somewhere in Utah in America. This woman, when she was very young, like I think 19, was living in some remote village in Utah with her father, and a group of guys comes there to kind of vacation. She meets the guy that she eventually falls in love with. All of his friends go back after the vacation. He decides to stay back. They end up living together for like 4 months, but eventually he gets a phone call and he gets the news that his mother has had a heart attack. So he has to immediately kind of fly back to New York, where he's originally from, and he never comes back. So he had told her that he'll come back when things kind of get normal again, and she did try to call him, but he didn't pick up. So it was like they were living together and were ridiculously in love, to now just quit cold turkey, no connection, no communication at all. And they don't see each other or meet each other for the next, I think, 10 years. Now this woman, her father has passed away, who was an adventurer. He would go out into the mountains and just like trek and do like treasure hunting kind of trips and whatnot. So she starts doing a similar kind of getaway trip with her friend, where she offers a service where you can pay to be taken away with a group. You can bring your own group of friends, like 4 or 5 people, and her best friend will take you away into the mountain ranges or like the canyon ranges in Utah, and you'll camp, trek, do a treasure hunt trip is, I think, essentially the goal. and all of this in like 5 or 6 days, so like 1 week. You completely escape your normal life, no devices, nothing, and you just explore nature essentially. So 10 years later, one day, the group that shows up to take this trip is the group that this guy is in, who was her lover all those years ago. So they see each other after like 10 years for the first time, and then they go on this trip, and a lot of other things happen. Like, I'm not sure if I'm actually doing justice to the story, but this was very unlike the typical kind of rom-com, simple, easy, digestible stories that Christina Lauren write. Very, very entertaining, very funny in some places, and also kind of shocking in some places. Like, I would not have expected Christina Lauren to write a book like this, but they did, and it's brilliant. And this is the other author that I want to talk to you about. This is Beth O'Leary. So I have two books again that I want to show you from her. This one is called The Flat Share, and this one is called The No Show. I don't really want to get into The No Show. The premise is written here in like 3 phrases. It says 3 women, 3 dates, 1 missing man, and that's all I'll tell you. The blurb of this book is written so like to the point, but at the same time it doesn't tell you anything. And it's so like, she's such a witty writer, Beth O'Leary, like so good with maintaining mystery and still kind of keeping you excited till the very end of the book. Because of course, especially when you're writing this kind of a story where you're trying to keep 1 or 2 main twists or plot of the story kind of intact towards the very end, you have to work really hard to maintain that level of interest from the reader till the point that those plot twists are eventually revealed. But she's very good with maintaining that kind of interest almost. So The Flat Share is about, I'll read this bottom thing here first before I actually get into it. So it says, Tiffy and Leon, who are the main characters in the book, share a bed. Tiffy and Leon have never met. So the book is about 2 people who end up sharing a 1-bedroom apartment, but they never meet each other. They've never seen each other in person, and they never meet each other. Of course, in the end, things happen and they meet because they have to fall in love, right? This is a rom-com. But for the majority of the story, these people don't know what the other person looks like. So I'll tell you the general premise of the story. This woman, Tiffy, has been kind of in and out of a, I wouldn't say abusive, but like a toxic relationship situation where she was living with her partner, and now she's broken up, but she just cannot find another place to rent so she can move out. So she's been broken up with the partner but still living together. But one day he kind of hints at the fact that he's kind of started seeing someone else, so you now will have to move out. So she feels this kind of almost pang of shame and disappointment, and she's kind of forced to just very quickly find a new place and move out, because of course it's very embarrassing like to be in that situation. So she starts looking at like listings for places. She comes across one. Also important to mention, she's very, very broke. So she doesn't have a lot of money to be able to pay rent. So she has to find a good place where she can stay, and also the place needs to be very cheap. So she finds a listing for a place where the listing says that the person who owns that place is actually looking for someone who can only stay in the house just for the night, because that person has a night job, so they're out of the house at night. So that's the only time that this person can offer a place. But during the day you have to be out, because it's a 1-bedroom apartment, so you can't be in the same house in the same room at the same time. So he's specifically looking for people who have day jobs and only want to be home at night. And of course, because the situation is such, he's asking for very little rent, which she can manage to pay. So she immediately responds and ends up going to the place to see it. Because she was shown around the apartment by this guy's girlfriend, she hasn't actually met the guy. So to kind of correspond with him, she starts leaving these little post-it notes around the house with notes written on them. So she'll leave a note on the fridge, and then when she comes back from work, he's gone to work now, but he's left a note on the fridge in response to her note. So this is like the general premise of the movie. Not the movie, the book. And I absolutely in love with this story. This is such a funny, witty, romantic, cute book. And the story is written so intelligently that I feel like out of all of these books, if I wanted to see one be made into a movie, it would be this one. I would love to watch a movie of this book. I love it. I love the story. I love the characters. And in the end, you just feel so happy for both of them. So that's my rom-com category done. Now this is like the philosophical kind of category. So like life lessons, so self-help, but not in the way usual self-help books are written. This is in the form of a story, but really easy to follow, really small book with decent font size. Again, I feel like this is something you can finish on a weekend. It's called Tuesdays with Maury by Mitch Albom. I feel like a lot of people look at this book as a very cliche book. There will be people out there who will roll their eyes at me for reading this book and liking this book. But I feel like if you struggle with interpersonal relationships, there's not a lot of help out there apart from like therapy. But I feel like therapy, first of all, it's very expensive. If you don't have the money, it's just so inaccessible for the general public who doesn't want to spend that much money on trying to become better at life. These kind of books can be really helpful. Now you know what kind of books I enjoy. So if you have any recommendations for me, please leave them in the comment section down below and I'll be more than happy to check them out and pick them up. Before I leave, one more thing. I know that I promised you guys a long-lasting base tutorial, and it's been very long since I told you that I've actually planned the whole thing and I've written down notes and everything. But the thing is, when I put up that story on my makeup page on Instagram, if you're not following me, what the hell dude, follow me on Instagram. It's at Maquillage by Prerna. I'll leave it on your screen. So I put up a story asking you guys for some feedback on some of the notes that I've made. Everything's done. But the day that I finished it off, the next day I woke up with like an allergy on my face. And I'm still almost like getting out of it. The texture is gone. I had like small bumps all over my face and it was a really like bad situation. I've managed to get that under control, but I still have a lot of texture. As soon as I feel like it's kind of back to normal, I'll film it. And now I'm done. I need a tall like drink of water after this. I've been speaking non-stop for the last hour. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already and I will see you in my next video. Bye.